I haven't been on here in a while. It's a whole thing. But I was moved to make a video about what I just saw. This may be a rant. If you have a question about what I'm doing, I'm smushing my crazy errands thinking putty. This is not sponsored, of course. So here's what happened today. I decided that I wanted to go and see Caligula, the ultimate cut. Sorry, that should give you a sign. Now, let me say this as well. These opinions are my own opinions. I'm not saying this is how it is for everyone. I'm saying these are my observations, which you may or may not find elucidating. That's fine. You are free to disagree. But I got some opinions, and so when I just say the words, know that this announcement covers what I'm saying, because I'm not going to continue to say, in my opinion, as I do this. Okay, I'm just going to tell you what my opinion is. And here are my opinions. So I went to see Caligula, the ultimate cut, at the IFC Center in Manhattan on 6th Avenue and 3rd Street, really, right by Minetta Lane, just off the E train. And I'll just say this. I'm going to go randomly through wherever my brain goes. It's the ADHD. I first saw this movie when it came out in 1980. I saw an R-rated version which did not include any of the adult activities, explicit adult activities, I should say, that were featured in the penthouse cut that had all the extra stuff in it. Extra stuff, right? Then I did see the explicit one later. The explicit one, I believe, is the one that I reacted to here. I hadn't seen it in a number of years, and I reacted to it a couple of years ago. It's on the channel here. So I'll probably link it in the description. So, this is so whack-a-mole. This is going to be crazy. How am I going to edit this mess? So it starts with a new title sequence. Also, it has all new music, so that's, I mean, it's okay, I guess. It didn't stick out to me, really. I did notice it because it makes noises sometimes. There are sounds that I can hear, but I wasn't taken with any of it. When it was the most noticeable is when it worked the least well. So, God, there are going to be a lot of mouth sounds in this video. Son of a bitch. Okay, so anyway, hang on to your hats, kids. So it starts with there's a claim made in the beginning, which starts with a whole, it's like a Star Wars crawl. It just doesn't crawl. It's a whole lot of words on a black screen telling the history of the film and how they found some 90 hours of how they found some 90 hours of footage that had not been used to create the 1980 version of Caligula. Now, discarding the explicit material, that's gone. Okay, that's not even a part of the deal here, obviously, because what they tried to do was they tried to take the film back to Gore Vidal, who he was the screenwriter. They're trying to take it back to his original vision for the story. Now, so many thoughts. Where do I start? It starts with an animated sequence where it tells. I don't know if you ever played Mass Effect 2 on PlayStation, but on PlayStation we didn't get Mass Effect 1. So Mass Effect 2 starts with an animation of what happened in the first game. This is like that. It starts with an animation, not from the first version of the movie, but with the story of the preceding Caesars and how they all killed each other's brothers and families and blah 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 blah. That's in that's the credits, right? And then the actual film starts with Malcolm McDowell waking up as if from a nightmare, and he has dreamt the opening animation. Because when he wakes up, he says, "They're going to kill me," or something to that effect. Which, here's the thing. The opening scene is now he and Teresa Ann Savoy, who, by the way, is a fine actress. She was a fine actor. They didn't need to dub her when they redid the film in 1980, but not now. Now it's actually her. But they dubbed her in 1980, inexplicably, because she's fine. She's certainly not the worst of the lot. So, anyway. They're going to kill me. And then we have the whole scene. There's the scene in the bedroom between the two of them. It's interrupted by a black bird that is a bad omen. And the bird scares Caligula, and his sister Drusilla calms him down and says, "Oh, you're being silly," or whatever, right? Then Macro shows up, and Drusilla goes around behind a screen to hide, because brothers and sisters are not supposed to be screwing each other, because this is Rome, not Egypt, apparently. I don't know how much of some of this stuff is supposed to be historically accurate. I know that we're given a date of AD 37, which means if Jesus had existed, he would have been 70, and not dead at 33, but that's a whole other story. But just in terms of how long ago this was, it's about 2,000 years ago. So it's very much around those times, those biblical times. Now, biblical times. Write in a comment if you know what that's from and who wrote it. Why not? And Don Humphries, you don't get to, if you're watching this, you don't get to play. You'll spoil it for everyone else. So, I know Seth will get it, but Seth won't watch this. So, this opening scene, I know that they say that they're not using any of the footage at all. Not one scrap of footage from the original cut of this film that that anyone has ever seen before. They said that they didn't use any of the footage from the original cut. I'm sure they wouldn't lie about that. I'm sure it's true. But I've seen the original cut quite a few times, and I own it and have owned various versions of it over the years. I've probably seen this movie in one form or another before today, 10 times or something, or more. I mean, I even have lines memorized. I have the way the lines are said memorized. Probably thanks to the autism, because they trigger something in my mind that makes me go, why is that like that? Why did he say that way? Here's a perfect example, which I think is in the movie more now than it was. I seem to recall that this gesture means thumbs down. It did 2,000 years ago. When you did this, it meant what we now do as that. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. That's just what's in my head. And I thought that was borne out because there's a scene, it's like the second scene of the movie now, this new cut, but it's the scene where the first time we meet Peter O'Toole, when he's playing Tiberius, the emperor, and he's in the pool and he's got his little fishies and whatever's going on, and he says he wants Caligula, which actually translates to little boots, to do the dance he did on the battlefield when he was a little boy. And he does that, and he uses this gesture, and he dances over to Claudius, and he's doing this to him, and Tiberius screams, "Stop it, stop that." Right? Did I say Claudius? I meant to. He's doing this to Claudius. And he says, "Stop that, stop that." Now, this may be period correct for 2,000 years ago, and there might be 3 people who came across that information at some point. However, that's not a thing now, and now this means that. So it does get a little confusing when he's running around to everybody he hates, going like this: "Hey, how you doing?" And I swear there are times when he does it. One of the times he goes, "Yeah." I don't know why. And so anyway, that's just another thing that they could have fixed by just not, editing can do miraculous things. I'm not saying they had to change it to this, because then you're in George Lucas territory. But anyway, that first scene is paced terribly. Again, down to editing, because it just is. It's too long. We don't have to watch him walk all the way over there. Just cut. Thank you. And let's move this shit along. The scene doesn't have that much information in it that we need. "Oh, I'm afraid of a bird." I get it. It's an omen. Ooh. And actually, one of the... Anyway, I'll go off on a different tangent over here and never get back. So anyway, they're saying that they didn't use any of the same footage, but that doesn't mean that they didn't use the same setup, but just a different take, right? So there may be some things that I was looking at going, I don't see a difference here at all. Apparently, in order just to say that they didn't use any of the same footage, they used a different take that was almost exactly the same. Sometimes I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, maybe that's true. I don't, I don't know what kind of credit they're looking for. Um, because if they hadn't brought it up, nobody in any audience would ever have gone, I wonder if any of this is precisely the same footage from that other version. Nobody would give a shit. But, you're expecting it to be completely and utterly different. And it's not all the time. It's so close sometimes that how would you know? You wouldn't. That's just, I just think that that's what happened, what they did. So then we get to the scene. I'm not going to go scene by scene because I'm not going to remember it all, but I just happen to know that next was Peter O'Toole. Peter O'Toole's the performance that they created for him with this edit is fantastic. He could have gotten an Oscar nomination, and all of the performances that they chose for the 1980 cut, which is what I'm just going to start calling it now. The 1980 cut was inexplicably sort of weird and like over the top and just not subtle enough, I guess. And let this be a lesson to film actors. Maybe decide who your character is and play that role and play that person every time the camera's rolling, so that they don't have any shitty takes, any takes with weird sentences, weird pauses and things in them that you did just because you know what, you're gonna actors are. I know that I know that this happens all the time, but actors don't talk about it because they just don't. But the performance that ends up in a film has nothing to do with what the actor does if there are several takes and the actor does a different weird thing every time, or a different weird thing once in every take, in every setup, right? In every scene. Oh, just do this one for fun. Well, you could do that, and you might have a good editor and director and producer who choose really good stuff, right? Or you could have Bob Guccione and an editor who took his name off the film, and even they're just going to look through all of this stuff, and they're going to go, how do we make what we need is I'll get to that later. I have 4 words to say at the end of all of this, and you're gonna want to stick around until the end. I hate when people say that, but I just don't want to say. I don't want to give my final yet. Okay, so anyway, Christ almighty. I distracted myself. Yeah, so anyway, these people chose all the good ones, and some different shots that are not so flat. But now here's just a general thing about the entire film. it's if you haven't seen it, it's 99.991% shot on a soundstage. There's one little scene that takes place in the woods, and they actually went outdoors for that. But everything else is indoors. And it's very theatrical. It's very stagey. It's very like a play in a lot of ways because of that. And it's very flat. And so I don't know if they edited it the way in 1980 they did, partially because of the way the sets looked. But I will say now that although the photography is still pretty, like things are in focus and, you know, that kind of stuff. And the, you know, the composition's pretty good and all that. I mean, it doesn't look amateurish, but now it looks even more like a soundstage than it has before. And because of that, and a few other things I'm going to mention, this, I don't know if there have been other movies made by Bertolt Brecht, or films that are supposed to be Brechtian. But if there was ever a movie that shows you why Brecht's idea failed, it would be this movie. Now, you can go and see a Brechtian play, and here's what I mean. But here's what it is in a nutshell. Somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong about this. I can only go from what I was taught and what I remember. But Brecht wanted to tell stories so that the audience would not become emotionally involved in the story, but actually just see it for the facts of the story and not become distracted by the fates of the characters and sort of stuff like that, right? And so there's supposed to be an emotional distance between the audience and the characters. It didn't really work because people feel for people and you can't stop them. We evolved that way. But when you try, you will get some interesting results, like inadvertent comedy can be one of them. And that's my favorite. I think when you're doing Brecht, you ought to make it as funny as you can and as absurd as possible. Because, then at least it's entertaining, right? In this case, I think they inadvertently made a Brechtian film because there are just things that are still non sequiturs. There's actor direction that doesn't match. One of the things is, well, number one, Caligula, not necessarily as written, but totally as played by Malcolm McDowell, I got a thought about that. Is irredeemable and disengaging in a way, and just not fun to watch. And the sooner they kill him, the better. And who gives a shit about him? And not just that, but who gives a shit about anybody else? I didn't give a crap about anybody, and except for Drusilla, but even she was, all in on the. I'm sorry, all in on the incest with her brother. So, I mean, but at least they didn't have any kids. I don't know about real life, but here, no. In the film, no. Um, so, so let's get back to Peter O'Toole. Oh, wait, and John Gielgud. John Gielgud in the scene with Peter O'Toole in the swimming pool and the fishies and the blah blah blah. Uh, his performance gets an improvement as well because he's always said this. Peter O'Toole, sorry, Tiberius says to Nerva, played by John Gielgud, something about Macro, who was the head of the guard, is going to kill him or something, something like that. After Tiberius dies, right? Because he's very old and syphilitic. And John Gielgud has a line. I know he hates me. Okay? I know he hates me, right? In the 1980 cut, back to actors beware of what you put on film, John Gielgud says, in his worst attempt at some sort of Shakespearean whatever he was doing, I know he hates me. That was a little bit of an exaggeration, but not a lot. Some of those actors who were supposed to be the best actors in the world were okay. Peter O'Toole, pretty good in this film, eventually. But he also had some clunkers. So anyway, there is a part of a scene missing. Let me get back. Nerva decides that Tiberius is going to die, and then Macro is going to kill him, and he's had enough. He says, my life up to now has been, the world is shit. It's just going to be shit. And I'm done. I'm old and I've had enough. And so he slits his wrists and sits in a very large glass tub so that the audience, this is the only reason, so that the audience can see that it's getting bloody. It's style over substance. I know that they didn't do that. I know they didn't make this gigantic 12-foot glass tub 2,000 years ago. Why? So we could watch this old man's naked ass while he's one of the few people whose asses we didn't have to look at. I didn't have to look at today. Malcolm McDowell's is everywhere. And that's not all. Everything else, he's completely nude. Not for any reason. I mean, yeah, you can have a fit and not be naked. Because he wasn't naked, and then he had a fit and took his clothes off. I mean, this is from the 1980 cut as well, and I'm sure it's just the blocking or something. But you know what? I'm gonna I'm going to get to this point, and I'm going to do something when I edit this, um, and just show you all they had to do to improve some of this stuff. So, there's a whole character who. Let me go back for just a second and say that my hopes were that at least this film would tell a story that hadn't been told by the 1980 cut of this film, and would do so um, in a grown-up fashion, without hardly any of the extraneous baloney and malarkey and genitalias. That's not how you say that. Genitalia is plural as well. Um, that were included in 1980, above and beyond, the. Can I say that word? Can I say that word? Oh well. The explicit stuff. So I thought we were going to get a real movie. That's all I'm trying to say. Oh, we've unearthed this performance by Malcolm McDowell. Malcolm McDowell goes on talk shows. Oh, I am now so proud of this film. Tinto Brass, who was the original director of the film and also has disowned it, was like, nah, they didn't ask me, so I wasn't involved. Which seems a little weird to me, because I thought I had heard that he was like, I don't want to be involved. I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. But I do think now, I'll look and see if I can find this online anywhere. And if I do, I'll drop it in. But I thought she said, oh, yeah, well, good for them. But she didn't say, oh, I can't wait to go and see what happened. I can't wait to see this film, the way it's all cut back together now. She still only had 6 lines in the whole movie. I didn't count. I could be incorrect there, but her part is much larger now than it was. So it was her butt. No, I don't mean her butt is larger now. It's larger now in this new cut because we see plenty of it. I swear they were like, we're cutting out all the explicit material. So anytime we can find a scene with a boobie or a booty or pubic hair or lesbians going down on each other or wanking or just gigantic penises in general, or small penises in general, they made sure that they got on the screen. So it was not the movie that I thought it was going to be. It was not still. You can tell the story without showing everybody's junk. You don't need it. But, I mean, I'm not a prude. I'm not a prude. I just wanted the story. Now I'm more fascinated by Caligula's truth than ever because now I know less about it than I did before because I don't know what I can believe. And so anyway, here's something that's weird. Again, it's in the editing. I'm blaming everything on the editing because that's how this came to be. All this material has been in the can for 45 years, right? So the only thing that you can do is edit it. And so I don't these choices that were made, I don't know. And I was wondering if maybe it was shot on film, and so if you do this and do that, you're going to see more of the film grain and blah 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 blah. Really? You can't fix that? It's 2024. You're telling me it has to have too much film grain in it if you decide that you need to cut out half of this and then zoom in to fill the 16:9 or whatever the aspect ratio is that they used. You're telling me that that AI couldn't have taken care of that. Maybe they didn't have the money for it. Well, if that's so, then maybe they shouldn't have done the project. But I digress a little bit, but still, that's one of the points I wanted to make. There's this character who she was in it before. She has gorgeous breasts. And we see Malcolm playing with her nipples lots. Why? I don't know. Because it turns out this character's only real addition to the proceedings is that she has these guys. I don't even know what their job would be. Milkers? No, that only in Spanish. I don't know. The official ejaculate suppliers. Because on screen now, this isn't that explicit. They're cheating this, but they're doing this. But we're not seeing they're like, we're not getting a visual of that. But we are getting a visual of the fact that they're faking it. Because I guess they couldn't cut that, those pixels, couldn't move that over a little so that we didn't see a thump thump. And then the story is, and I believe this was in it before, but there's more about it now than there was. She's using their ejaculate as skincare, and Caligula, Longinus, almost everybody in the scene ends up going over to her and going, they all got to taste it now, right? Why? Why is that in this movie? That adds nothing to the friggin' story at all. Oh, it's character. Is it? We needed that to show. You can show character a lot of ways. Sometimes you can do it with one look in a close-up. You don't need to have anybody licking somebody else's jism off of their thighs or wherever. And she she serves no purpose. Even if you left in references to the fact that she exists, you don't need her in the movie. The character's name is Enya. She's Macro's wife. And you could make references to her and never see her. And not miss her at all. And this movie is too friggin' long. So that would help that as well. There's quite a bit of that. There's inexplicable sounds of snoring that come to find out was a tiger cub. I thought the horse was in bed with him in the scene. That's a different scene, which also goes on, that goes nowhere, because Caligula gets the fever, but it doesn't kill him. It's no lasting effects. It's the fever that his sister Drusilla dies from later in the film, a few minutes later in the film. But we don't need to see him get sick to know that people are getting sick. There's a flu around. Be careful of the flu. See, I just saved millions of dollars. Also, but if we do that, then we don't get the scene with the horse in the bed, which I always assumed it was in the bed with him because it was a sex thing, right? And now the horse was in bed with him because he was delusional from the fever and thought that the horse was his sister, which does not really get explained very well. And it's quite bizarre at one point when he talks to the horse and calls it Drusilla and Invictatus, I don't know, the horse, which is a gorgeous animal, by the way. Here's something else that I realized about this movie. It does not have a 3-act format. It does not have a regular storytelling formula at all. And things happen that could have happened and been done, and they're dragging them on. And not only that, like Caligula, it leads to even more scenes that they added back in, which are not needed. That are even staged in ways. I'm like, why is he doing this and saying, oh well, we've had sightings. Caligula disappears, right? He gets upset after Drusilla dies. I think is when that happens. Yes, because he says there's to be a month of mourning, and so nobody's to bathe and have sex, and you can't party, and da 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 da, right? So he does the thing where that story of which is, I didn't think it was from this. He gets fed up with his emperorhood, and he puts on some blue veils, and he runs out of the residence and goes to the street and decides to run away and not be emperor. Keeps his ring on, but he hides it so nobody can see it. And people in the street are all laughing and having a great time, and there are a couple of drag queens. There are a couple of men dressed as senators' wives with these big, like, wigs on and stuff, and that was hilarious. But we don't know anything about the proclamation from him about not having parties and the month of mourning until he reads it We see him outside in the street at night with all these people who, of course, have no pants on, and they're all these women squatting, urinating next to a wall, because that's really important to make sure that we understand that 2,000 years ago they had no indoor plumbing. So you should put it in this movie. So we don't know that he has demanded that until he is reading his proclamation up on a wall while everybody else is partying. But while he's reading it, he's looking at it like, who wrote that? That's weird. Huh. I don't know why he's having that reaction. Some awesome, some awesome editing, I guess, some sort. So then they can't find him, and then they're looking, and then the people and the talking, and the movie keeps going, and then he decides something about having a, I don't know what the fuck's going on at this point, and then this is the ultimate cut. It's the best this movie could be. I'm sure. I'm not sure. We'll get to that. Then he meets this character. There is a character. I don't know his name. He's a mute. I do not believe he's deaf, but because he reacts to people talking and shit, but he can't speak for whatever reason, and he's like a jailer, and he also does close-up magic. So Caligula, when he's out on the street, gets picked up. I don't know why, but he's because they don't it's his story, but we don't see anything that happens to him while he's on the street, except that he reads that sign and goes, and he doesn't seem to be all that upset with everybody not doing what he asked them to do. And then he ends up being put in the slammer, which is where he meets this mute. And they're in that scene now. I don't remember this at all from maybe I don't know why. Maybe this isn't in it. I can only assume it's not. And if somebody knows that it is, they'll certainly tell me. And then I can go and look at it because I have the DVDs. Again, link in the description. So he has a gold coin. There's a woman who I thought was a dead body, completely naked. And when I say this, I'm not like, we assume she's naked. She's naked. She's bush. Everything is out. We can see it all. She's laying there, completely nude. And he takes this gold coin. He shows it to everybody. And they're all like, ooh. And then he takes it and he throws it. And it goes into the woman's vagina. And she closes her legs and reacts, right? It also makes a noise like... And then he goes and he reaches into her vagina and he pulls out 2 coins. Look, it's a magic trick. Lovely. And he throws one to somebody and, whatever. So then Caligula does a trick with his signet ring. Why, I don't know. Because you'd think that if he showed somebody a signet ring, they'd go, oh, which they do, but not until after he does a thing with the ring and pretends to pull it out of the guy's crotch. Apropos of nothing. None of that moves the plot. It's not entertaining. It's kind of gross. It's very stupid. And It's, something that hadn't ever been seen before, so we got to put it in. Just because these people said they recreated this movie all from stuff and they took out the explicit material, nah, they didn't do anybody any favors. So anyway, I'm going to kind of wrap this up now because I could go on and on and on. Now this is my, I'm going to say it here. This is my opinion. I like Malcolm McDowell. I don't have a problem with Malcolm McDowell. He has given some great performances back in the day. But then he became a B, C, and D movie actor just so he could get a paycheck. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the point I'm trying to get to is he very much cared that his performance had not been seen. And this is an opportunity for him to make some more money and drum up some more publicity for himself because he needs it, quite frankly. Is his performance better now in this cut, this ultimate cut? Is it better than in the 1980 cut? A little bit, I guess. There is a little more subtlety once in a while. Unfortunately, though, all the stuff that bothered me in his performance in 1980, he meant to come out like that. I think of him as a brother, Lord. And then he's just the character. He just makes him even, you know what? He played him like an asshole. He doesn't play him like a person at all. And the reason we don't care about Caligula in this film, and we can't wait to see him offed, is because there's no basis for us to understand why he's behaving the way he is. It's just flat. Again, Brechtian. We don't see, and I don't care what has been said about this, we do not see an arc for him. We see a little asshole. He's the same age throughout the whole thing, but I'm sure he's supposed to be younger in the beginning, which is why his lines all sound like this. He's a little asshole, little boots, Caligula. I wonder what's little asshole. If you know the term for little asshole in Italian, please comment it down there, because I would love to find that out. Because I don't think you can look that up. It's not gonna work as well if I Google it. Google Translate's not gonna. If you actually speak Italian, there's probably a term for that Google is not gonna get. I hate when people say comment below shit that they can look up on Google. Fucking Google it. But anyway, maybe there are 5 different ways of saying it. I don't know. Little asshole. So it's flat. We don't see him gradually become more and more mad. We don't see this. We don't get an arc. We just get more performance of why is he saying this to these people now? It's not like he doesn't know. Oh no, they won't kill me. You're the stupidest motherfucker I ever saw in my life. What do you mean they're not going to kill you? The beginning of the movie is you waking up saying they're gonna kill me. And by the end, you're going, they're not going to kill me. But you say they're both done with the exact same character. They're going to kill me. They're not going to kill me. I mean, there's more emotion behind it than that, but it's the same amount in both places, and it's the same emotion. Well, one isn't. One is, oh, I'm scared, I had a nightmare. And the other one is, oh, I'm not going to do anything. I don't think I'm portraying it as well. I'm a better actor than he is, and that's why I can't make it make sense enough. But there is no arc. It's just him, inexplicable asshole thing after inexplicable asshole thing, over long drawn out scenes that go nowhere. I don't care about your magic trick with a vagina and a coin, and I don't care about Enya and her ejaculate habit, and I don't care that Longinus has to go through this elaborate thing to say we don't know where he is, and then laugh. And the muff diving, why? Just, there's no, that's also, there are no good reasons for these things. If there were, it would be different, but there just aren't. Oh, and here's I'll try and make this the button on one of the problems with the editing here, and why I think they screwed up this story again, is, if you've seen the film, you'll know this. If you haven't, whatever, why are you here? So, well, I think it's in my edit. It's in my link in the description. So, there's this woman who was a slave of Tiberius. And it's after the fishy scene, so it's probably the third scene in the film. Which ends with my favorite line in the movie, I think, which is when Tiberius looks at Caligula and his exit line is, "You don't look well at all." Something about how he's gonna be killed. It's just hilarious to me. But you know what? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's only me. I don't know. If you've seen the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about. That line is still in. And it makes me laugh every time, it always has. So anyway, the part I'm talking about now is when Tiberius tries to poison and murder Caligula early in the film by offering him, after they've had this big long discussion about, oh, but I love Gemellus. He is like a brother to me, Lord. And then Tiberius says something like, be careful, you could be killed at any moment, or some crap, I don't know. I don't remember exactly. And then he hands him this thing of wine and says, here, enjoy some wine. And he's standing there, Gemellus is standing there, Tiberius is standing there, and the slave girl is standing there in their little group, right? By the way, the slave girl is completely nude, of course. She was before, you know, but I mean, so I'm not suggesting that anybody clothe anybody digitally. That's not what I'm talking about. But again, editing, we can get the idea without this poor woman who is either 80 or dead now. Not 80. She wouldn't have, she was probably, maybe she was 25 back in the day, which would make her 69 or 70 now. So anyway, I digress again. So they've been talking, and now they got there's this wine, and Tiberius gives it to him and says, "Have a drink." Gives it to Caligula and says, "Have a drink," and Caligula takes it and thinks, "Is he trying to kill me? Let's find out." And he doesn't say that, but he just goes, "After you, brother," and hands it to Gemellus, and then Tiberius takes it from Gemellus and hands it to the slave girl. Then Tiberius and Gemellus go out, and he says, "You're not looking well at all." And the slave girl, after they leave, instantly drops dead. She drops dead. So now we know, and Caligula knows, that Tiberius wants to kill him, has been trying to kill him. And Caligula's reaction to that is, "Excuse me. What?" It doesn't register at all. He doesn't register it at all. And they could have fixed that with editing a little bit if they had cut where he gives it to the slave girl, and instead he just takes it from him, and we have a line and blah blah blah, and all we know is that Gemellus didn't drink it. And why did he take it if it wasn't poison? And it could be a question in Caligula's mind, perhaps, I think. Also, when you take it off screen, we sort of go, I wonder what happened there. But we don't have to see it. We don't have to see every second of the film. We don't have to see him putting it down in the edit. Maybe that's why they left it in, because they couldn't figure out, what do we do? How do we explain the cup? How about you don't, and you don't have a shot of the dead girl on the floor anymore? That would fix that. Oh, and the wedding scene, the wedding double essay scene is still in the movie, and it doesn't need to be. And if you want to leave it, you could edit around and get rid of the giant phallus and the giant female genitalia. I always thought that they were cake, but now I'm not sure, because they don't look like cake now. Maybe that's just the quality of how they, I don't know why I thought it was always cake for 45 years until today. I thought they were cakes, because why else would they even exist? I don't understand why they're there, and they're huge. And it just seems like that scene now is even longer than it was. It's longer and more vile. Before, there was an element of humor in Malcolm McDowell's performance. I always thought he thought, well, I'm doing this performance this way because this movie is a piece of shit. So I'm going to make a mockery of this, and I'm going to make this face. And that's why they had to... No. I mean, I don't really know what any of his intentions were, except to say his lines and sometimes yell a lot and run around naked. There's a brand new three-way that was not in the film before, between Drusilla, Caligula, and Helen Mirren's character. Kyle starts with a C. Now the only thing I can think of is Caiaphas. And although correct for the period that she was not playing, wait. We need a more permanent solution to our problem. So, here's the thing. Here's what I think now. after many decades, getting close to nigh on 50 years of having the experience of watching the 1980 cut, the 1980 explicit cut, and now seeing the ultimate cut, Bob Guccione was right. The movie kind of sucks. So, at least the porn distracts you from the fact that the movie kind of sucks. And that the lead actor's performance was kind of shit. And because if this is the ultimate cut, and this is the best of everything they could possibly have put together, then Bob Guccione was right. And the only way you should ever watch this is just like when you watch Aliens and you need to watch the director's cut edition with the extra stuff back in it so that it makes sense. Caligula should only be seen with all the explicit stuff in it so that you're distracted from the fact that this is a terrible movie. The sets are beautiful, but they don't belong in a film. Again, Brechtian, flat performances. Probably the reason they used the weird performances they used was because at least somebody had an inflection. I don't know what to say. However, I don't think there's a good movie in here. There isn't. They didn't shoot a good movie. What you have on the film is not a good movie. Regardless of the performances, you can't get into. It's too Brechtian. The wall is there. You cannot get into it. You can't. You can go. I gotta say this. Claudius actually is a character now. He's not just some big fat rampantly homosexual guy. They actually cut to him and use him quite a bit, but then they fuck it up at the end because they leave him in there being afraid after Caligula's been murdered that he's going to be next to be murdered, not to be Caesar, right? And they shouldn't have put that in because you're with him throughout the film thinking, yeah, you're right. He keeps giving these looks of disgust and why are you acting this way? Just like Longinus, they're sort of two peas in a pod. He's right alongside him and Kyria in the attitude. And so he should be right there with them at that moment when they murder them. But he isn't. He's afraid, and he shouldn't be. So they should have not put that in there at all. They shouldn't have had that moment in the film at all. And in the ultimate cut, because it undercuts everything that he's been doing the whole movie. And finally, Helen Mirren, again, doing what the director said, even though it doesn't match with all the things that they put back in the movie. She is like trying to tell him, be careful. This is not going to be good. You're pissing off all of these people. But then they keep adding these moments with her where she's laughing with him about it. And the one that's the most egregious is when he says, they think they're going to kill me. And she goes, she laughs right along with him. But we've already had all these conversations about how, you need to be careful. They're going to So that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit with her character. Y'all, this ain't a good movie. And one of the things I'm going to do is buy it on Blu-ray. And I'm going to, just for myself, for no other reason, then just because I have to have the experience, I'm going to rip it and put it into my DaVinci Resolve Studio, and I'm going to make cuts like the ones that I think should be made. Um, and maybe I'll have the ultimate cut. That shit's still ain't going to be a good movie, though. And it might only be about 45 minutes long. But, you know, man, I was sitting there thinking, geez, would you please kill him? Please, is this over? And then I saw they were doing this one part, and I was like, oh, I think this might be it. I'm pretty nervous. I'm kind of excited. I get to go home. Thank you if you watch this. Thank you. I don't know what else to say. So I'm just going to kind of stop talking now. My reactions are coming back, believe it or not. I know it's kind of been a couple of years, but I've had a lot of life stuff that happened, you know, finding out about being autistic and having ADHD and dealing with all that, and then, you know, trying to figure out what I'm going to... But speaking of weird movies, the next one I'm going to do is The Devils. I could not find a copy of it anywhere, and I mentioned that online someplace, and somebody sneaked me a beautiful copy of Ken Russell's The Devils, which is based on a true story. Here's another one. I think I'll do a little research on that. I have seen the movie, but it's been decades, and I've only I haven't seen it in decades. It's not like Caligula, where I saw it once in a while sprinkled around. That's Oliver Reed and Vanessa Redgrave. Oliver Reed plays this handsome priest. I think he's just a priest, although it seems like he has a fancy hat. But I think he's just a priest. I don't think he's a bishop, but he could be a bishop. So I don't freaking know. She's a nun. She's a hunchback nun who flogs herself because she's in love with this priest, and there's an orgy with all the nuns and the priests that takes place, and that's part of supposed to be what's true about this. I think part of the reason that this is not an easy film to find anymore is probably due to some of that stuff. But anyway, that's the next one I'm going to do. That's the next one I'm going to watch and put up. Yeah, so there you have it. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye-bye.